was some exciting bouts between Usyk and then Joshua. I think finally the debate has been settled. Many were wanting this to go as trilogy, but I think after two, we have our verdict already.
Yeah, we do have our verdict already. I think that my surprise with the bout was the fact that the first judge actually scored in favor of Joshua.
I was really surprised he even got some points.
Exactly. I was wondering what he was watching because it was clearly a dominant performance there by Usyk from round one. The only time you may feel that Joshua won a round was something, I think either the round 9 or the round 10. That's why I feel it tilted in favor of Joshua a little, but it was a total dominance by Usyk, clearly putting himself as, if not the second biggest element in the heavyweight division. I don't know about you, Percy.
I always say that Joshua is somebody who does more talking than trying to put it into action. Yes. He's really messed up a lot of opportunity. That's what I see, because he had a chance to actually become the only second undisputed heavyweight after Lennox Lewis.
When he was actually
when he had a chance to fight Deontay
Wilder.
In fact, there were three undefeated: himself, Deontay Wilder, and Tyson Fury, who by then had relinquished his titles because of his mental issues. And fighting him, he was like, no, he had to fight in UK. But when it comes to boxing, it is Las Vegas, it is Madison Square Gardens, and he was refusing, and he had to be between Fury and Deontay Wilder, and Fury cemented himself as the only undefeated left, and he had to lose his title, previously to the fat guy. I forgot his name, Ruiz. Yes, he had to lose to him, and he came back and still does not want to fight in US. And his first fight, he lost.
I don't know what his problem is, but why do you think he lost that bout against Usyk?
You look at Usyk, his mental fortitude is one of the things that he's been a skilled man. He knows his wits, how to hit the right spots to get the right points. You look at Joshua, like Percy, it's been more talk as opposed to action. And you look at how he even behaved post the game, throwing out that belt. He's come out to write a whole lengthy speech and that he was fighting his emotions. He had 2 bouts on the night and all of that. But I think
I think he was not prepared. Usyk's movement in the ring was awesome.
He's a well-gifted boxer. He knows his wits about.
Usyk, in boxing, it's either you're a fighter or you're a boxer. Usyk is a blend of the two. He's a boxer and he's a fighter at the same time. So he doesn't mind going with you for the long haul. And he would box you, he would fight you, depending on how, the technique you bring along. And as the saying goes, styles make fight. And I think that clearly this bout, the style of Usyk was the dominant style. And for me, I feel one thing that Joshua did not do well throughout his career was the fact that he was avoiding certain fights. He chose to fight the likes of Petkin, Dylan White, all these fighters who, for me, were not
a real challenge.
Exactly. They were not A-list heavyweight fighters.
Yes, and he also lost his chance of being accorded one of the best heavyweight boxers we've ever seen. Now, I think he's blotted his name out because heavyweight boxing is US, and US is heavyweight boxing.
Would you want to see Joshua Wilder fight?
It won't happen. It won't happen.
It's
not something that is going to happen.
Before we had the Fury Wilder bout, those two excellent bouts, all the bout anybody would want to see or everybody wanted to see in the heavyweight division was Joshua Deontay Wilder bout. Would you still think that? Do you still think that bout would be relevant?
I actually don't think it would be.
It wouldn't be.
There's no way back for Joshua at this material point in time.
You think so?
There's no way.
It wouldn't.
He's probably got to call it quits.
I subscribe to that, but I think a good bout against Deontay Wilder would probably push him in the conversation because I want to see how the dynamics go, because I feel Tyson Fury is in a division of his own. Listen, there's nobody in that division that can beat Tyson Fury. And some tag him as the heavyweight because of his size, his physique and everything. He's miles ahead of all the compatriots in the heavyweight division. Yes, Usyk Fury will be a good bout to watch because
that's actually one I wish
the two styles the two of them bring. Fury with a very unorthodox style in boxing. Usyk a typical Eastern European boxing fighter.
you talk about Eastern Europeans. You see, that is one thing that the Eastern Europeans have. That it's an edge, not just with boxing, even in tennis. They have this mental fortitude,
that aggression.
Yeah. And with Joshua, it's something that has really been. Yes,
his defense has. I watched throughout the bout. I felt his defense was very bad.
He let his guard down.
He goes in
left
with
a lot of
confidence.
And his jabs, I felt he could have thrown more jabs. You know, the jabs work your way into the bout.
It was like you said, it's as if he wasn't really prepared. He was doing more talking, more press conference. You never heard Usyk doing any press conference.
He was more into the revenge theory
thing,
as opposed to revenge in practical.
Anyway, so before we draw down the curtains on this, which of the bouts now? Let me prepare a bout for you and see which of the bouts now you want to see. Wilder Fury trilogy, Usyk.
No, it will actually be the fourth one.
Wilder Fury again. Usyk. What is his name?
Joshua
Fury.
Usyk Fury.
We know Joshua is out of the conversation now because he would have to work his way
back,
to get into any form of
we've
contention.
Seen a trilogy of already Fury and Wilder.
But I would want to see it because I still feel there is something.
There is nothing.
There's something Wilder can do.
Us watching a movie repeatedly.
No,
let's
not
enjoy
going to
something.
So
here.
Usyk Fury.
That's something we should.
That would be interesting.
I'm not really subscribing.
Let's see what happens.
Of course,
but
because now it's Usyk and I want to see the two mental fortitudes working.
Yeah.
This is Fury. Now, if you're talking about someone coming up from the ashes and making things work, you mention Fury. Yeah. And if you talk about somebody who is also plagued with a lot, he fights, he wins the what do you call it? The title. He goes as a soldier. He fights in a war. But he comes back and fights.
Let's do this quickly in the next 60 seconds. I've heard people, boxing experts and, enthusiasts say that the heavyweight division now is not as competitive as it was back when you had the likes of Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, all these guys in that division. Do you think the heavyweight now is a little lightweight in quote?
Okay, I wouldn't really subscribe.
Or the boxers in the heavyweight division now are not strong.
The heavyweight division had always been, in quote, a boring one.
No,
I'm coming. I'm not saying that it's boring. I'm saying in quote.
Okay.
Because if you take what do you call it, a Fraser, Ali, yes, that was it. Then we came to the era of Tyson, and we also came to Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. From that time, there was more like a silent period until the Klitschko brothers came in. And when they came in, then you had Fury beating both of them, getting their titles.
Even in that zone, I remember when we had the likes of Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson,
of course,
Evander Holyfield.
You could mention three.
Yeah, but the three gave us reasons to be stuck to the heavyweight division. Now we can have about 4 or 5 people in the division, yet there's nothing exciting because you and I, Joshua is not box office. I can tell you on authority that at the time Mike Tyson was on top of his game. He was Hollywood. He was box office.
Course.
Lennox Lewis was box office. Even when Tyson came up and his first bout, he lost against Douglas.
Yeah.
That bout alone. So for me, I feel that the division now, honestly, is not as competitive, is not as strong as it is.
I want to say eras have changed. The techniques, the generation we've produced now. You'd want to say they've switched away from what we usually refer to as the norm back then. So you could say it's probably like.
And I think you also want to subscribe to the fact that you see, unlike
so they are heavyweights, but they are lightweights in terms of the competition they bring.
Unlike now, then you could get Tyson first 25 games or first 25 bouts. He was like knocking you down. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. But now
Tyson was a different beat. For me, my all-time best boxer.
The knockouts have been very rare.
Okay.
It now goes to the length and the.
So let's see what happens. I'm sure in the next coming months we might hear news of possibly Usyk, Fury bout. But on that note, just subscribe to Sports 101. Watch our videos. We are doing this with you. We want to see your comments. We want to hear from you. So which bout do you want to see?
Mine is Usyk Fury. What's yours? You could drop it in the comments and would gladly want to hear from you as well.
It's actually been a very boring weekend for me because Actually, they didn't really get time to do a lot.
Why is
No,
it
I had
boring?
the Friday.
There's been interesting games across Europe.
There was
Spain,
Madrid.
exactly.
The matches were not really catchy for me because they were routine wins. For instance, Madrid winning 4-1. It's a normal.
On the note of Madrid winning, how did you see that game?
Well, I think it was business as usual. Madrid doing Madrid things, and that's to say it's normal to see them walk through the park. We spoke about this in the preview. Their visit to Celta Vigo has always been routine business. The Balaidos, it has been routine business. They go there, get the job done, and go back to the capital. So I'm not pretty much surprised about the fact that they were able to find their way around the Celta team. But I think what really strikes me first of all has got to be that Rudiger purchase.
But even before that, I think we are being a bit unfair with Celta Vigo because if you watch that game,
of course,
when Madrid scored the first goal via Karim Benzema penalty, when Iago Aspas equalized also via penalty, from the 20th minute, Celta Vigo were very good. How they pinned Madrid to the back. At some point, Madrid had to literally resort on the counter-attack using the pace of Vinicius Junior and the beautiful runs by Karim Benzema.
That was the moment they failed to make it
That was the moment they failed to, make it count. But in the game, if you look at the game, how Ancelotti played, now there's no Casemiro. He's gone. What do you make of Tchouaméni's first start and his first 90 minutes? And ironically, I thought he would play a bit more further up the pitch, but he actually played very deep and allowed Camavinga and Luka Modric to actually be the midfielders who were pushing high up the pitch. What do you make of Tchouaméni per se?
I was having a conversation backdrop with my brother, and I was like, I always commend Perez for whatever purchases he made because he seems to always replace a player and make us, in quotes, forget whoever did the job, but get the job done.
He does it seamlessly.
He's actually an expert when it comes
because
to
when he was going to buy a defensive midfielder for 80 million euros in a time that he's building the stadium, we're like, this is a guy who just sprouted up, but he's so comfortable
and his skill set.
Allow Casemiro go.
Tchouaméni's skill set.
His passing was
not
excellent.
So much. His technical abilities are not inclined to him being specifically a defensive midfielder.
Yes.
He's actually more attacking. My surprising thing in yesterday's game was the fact that Ancelotti decided to actually play him in a more, deep role, defensive mode, shielding the defense very well, whilst allowing the likes of Camavinga and Luka Modric the free role to play in a more advanced role. What do you make of Iago Aspas' performance? There's a guy who he went to Liverpool. It didn't really work for him. Come back to Celta Vigo.
He went to Liverpool, came back with the nickname Barry.
Yeah, and if you watch his time at Celta Vigo, he's actually equaled David Villa's record as the highest Spanish goal scorer. And this year, if he ends up scoring more goals as the Spanish highest goal scorer, he overtakes David Villa. He'll be on 5, David Villa will be on 4. What do you make of Iago Aspas' importance to Celta Vigo?
I think he's come good. That spell at Liverpool was entirely a disaster. You probably have thought that would be the end of Iago Aspas, but he's found a new home at the Balaidos. He's had coaches who've gotten the team to play to suit his style, and he's always been key. You look at his input at Celta, you can't underrate his influence.
He's their most important and influential player on the pitch.
He's actually the go-to man whenever Celta are in despair. He's that player you can count on and say, this is the man that will
And he's also never disappointed them.
Exactly.
Anytime Celta has been in the woods, he's been the one to bring them out.
Pull them out of the woods. And so I think he's really found his they say water finds its level.
Yeah, but
he's found it.
Are Real Madrid looking like the champion team that a lot of people expected them to be?
I don't know what else you are expecting to see, but you see,
do you think there are flaws in the team?
No, there would definitely be flaws.
Did you see any flaws in the Real Madrid setup against Celta Vigo?
I think we've come to know this Real Madrid team with flaws. Look at the run in which they won the Champions League final. Yeah. They literally had to go back every single time. They had to come from behind. It's been normalized for us to think that this Real Madrid team it's not flawless, but what has been actually normalized, most importantly, has got to be the fact that they have the ability to come out of the ashes when you least expect it.
Where I think the flaws are in this team is their inability to replace certain key men or find competent replacement for them. Let's not forget, Isco is gone. Now, who would come in when Karim Benzema is injured?
I don't think you would say. I don't think you would say.
Who was
there? What was the impact of a player like Isco
when he was?
My emphasis is not even on Isco. I'm talking about the fact that
Karim Benzema.
The fact that you see, if you have a Karim Benzema and Benzema is off, the entire shape of the team changes totally.
Of course,
because now even when the team is playing, if you watch them during the preseason, in the 3 games that Karim Benzema didn't play, they were blunt. When they played against Barcelona, up until the 80th minute, they had not even had a single shot on time. Because when you Vinicius is not a guy who you expect to run and pick on balls. He wants to be the one to run and give you the balls. So I think that those are the few flaws. Defensively, Madrid do not have a problem because for all the covers, Alaba can slot in midfield. He can also slot
join them.
Let's talk about Rudiger. Do you think they needed Rudiger?
Rudiger needed a new challenge.
So Madrid didn't need Rudiger.
I wouldn't say Madrid needed Rudiger, but I would always say that if you give me Militao and you give me Rudiger, I would choose Rudiger. Yes, look at the needless penalty he conceded. You lose the ball, the marker has also lost the ball, then you just shield it with your hand.
Okay.
And watching him, I always watch Militao, and he makes salient mistakes, small mistakes.
You think Madrid needed Rudiger?
To think of the fact that they lost Ramos and Varane in the summer market last year,
needed him?
You would say to some extent Real Madrid lacked cover
Of course, they
at the
needed
back.
him.
And to get Rudiger on a free, that's a good bargain.
And his skill set, if you look at Rudiger, he's a different breed from all the Madrid central defense pairing.
They do have.
And his aggressiveness, his vision, his ability to.
He's
You saw when he came on. He's a Sergio Ramos type of player.
You wouldn't get that in.
When he came on, you saw that run.
Yeah.
That literally nearly ended with him even creating a goal, but led to that penalty.
Yeah.
I think that is what Chelsea. That is the kind of gem Chelsea have allowed to go. And that's the kind of priceless diamond Real Madrid have scooped up. I know what Ancelotti is trying to do. He's trying to find a perfect position for him, because if you watch the game, there were times he had to let Alaba slot in midfield for Rudiger to play as a central defensive pair. I've seen Alaba play severally in midfield at Bayern Munich.
Of course, even when he gets to national
that's what gradually he would do, because you could see that there are a lot of games for them to play. So I don't think a lot of people are complaining that Rudiger is not having game time and you move from Chelsea. It's just Rudiger is a starter in this team, and he proved it yesterday when he came on with how he reads the game, how his interceptions and all of that. The Madrid central defensive pairing do not have that. And even his ability to play at right back is an added advantage, because if what's the name of their right back? I keep forgetting this. That if Carvajal, goes off, who replace him is about the best option to replace him.
Of course, because usually when Carvajal goes off, they don't have anybody they have to bring Vasquez. And for Rudiger, like you said, it's more like Sergio Ramos all over again.
Exactly.
Yes, Sergio Ramos all over. He brings that aggression. Sometimes maybe if they are with the ball, that maybe they are playing against a team that has maybe a first wall and a second wall, like he was doing in Chelsea. He surges forward. He will either shoot or he will either pass the ball. So I see him to really be, like I said, he is everything that Militao would want to be. He's an upgrade on Militao.
Would you rate Perez as scoring 10 over 10 with the signing of Rudiger?
Well, that's a priceless piece he's pulled out of the hat. 10 out of 10, perfect. But I'll give him 0 out of 10 for Eden Hazard.
Quick one, Hazard. What is the problem with Hazard? Quick one.
The problem with Hazard is that he came in at the right time, but he was struck with unforeseen circumstances.
No,
I think
that is my.
He's not been struck with.
When he came, when he came
on
in,
Hazard.
Yes, when he came in with a prospect really to make it, because it was his dream move.
So what is the problem with him?
The problem is that
you are blaming his injuries.
No. Now his confidence is on the low.
Even before his confidence, what was his performance when he walked into
I'm
Real
trying
Madrid?
to say that he comes in. He has in fact. Vinicius was rather supposed to be an understudy. He was supposed to study from Hazard.
What is wrong with Hazard?
I think he's not got the penchant to play at a bigger club. It might be the unpopular opinion, but I think that's the truth. You know why I think he doesn't have the penchant to play at a bigger club? He doesn't have the mental fortitude. Anybody out there might want to throw in the fact that he's had injuries and all of that.
I'm not saying
Marco
injuries.
Asensio had an ACL.
Yeah.
Went off for 8 months. Comes back, scores in the Champions League final.
Ronaldo Nazario de Lima had,
I wouldn't even want to bring in.
Went off for almost 2 years.
I wouldn't even want to go.
I'm just saying.
I'm trying to say that I wouldn't want you to put it in.
For those who want to blame the Hazard's performance, I'm not talking about you. I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact
want
that
to run to injuries.
No, that one is never. It's never injuries.
He's never got it. He's afraid of the stage.
For a club like Real Madrid, character is very important.
Exactly.
Your mental strength, mental fortitude is very important.
And I feel that it's broken.
Hazard has failed to build himself to that level where mentally you need to understand that I am playing for Real Madrid.
Because when he came in,
he came from a small club, so you wouldn't want to fault him that much.
Oh, the Chelsea fans will not be excited.
But you can't put Real Madrid on the same
Madrid came from a small club. He came from Tottenham.
But that is that's a player with a big
season. And the first season,
a big
he was voted as the
Hazard has gone 3+ seasons, and he still can't find his mojo.
I am saying that I am not blaming it on injuries.
Okay.
I am blaming it on the fact that when he came in, and he was supposed to start, injuries made him lose his position to Vinicius. And when he came, the level that Vinicius had gotten to, he was not able to mentally, get to that level of Vinicius.
Dave, Hazard
and he wasn't getting game time too.
Hazard has had injuries at Chelsea severally. He's gone off for months. But he comes back and walks into the team and plays.
The difference between Chelsea and Real Madrid. I probably think I'm in the mood of dishing out unpopular opinions today. But the difference between Real Madrid and Chelsea has got to be the fact that with Chelsea, it's a smaller club.